Welcome into a Sunday night edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, always presented by Lance Beal, attorney at law, our guy down in Lafayette, Louisiana. Remember, you can get in touch with Lance easily by logging on to the website over there, as we have been telling you about. Obviously, he is on Facebook, as he is Lance Beal, attorney at law down in Acadiana. Our lawyer here on Sunday nights, as you can get in touch with him online at lawofficeoflancebeal.com. Call today for a consultation. One of the best lawyers in the South. Trust the law office of Lance Beal, where you can visit the website tonight, lawofficeoflancebeal.com. You can also get in touch with our good friend Lance down there in Acadiana by dialing him up at 337-991-6263. 991-6263 is the phone number to get in touch with Lance, and he brings you our Sunday night conversation every week here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Lots to get to here on this Sunday night. Noah is here working with us this Sunday. Lloyd will be back tomorrow morning, as we've got lots to get to. LSU takes care of University of Louisiana Monroe, and maybe one of the most boring football games that LSU has produced in the last 20 years, including all of Les Miles' tenure at LSU. That was one of the most boring, most unintriguing, uninteresting games I have ever tried to watch. Full disclosure, I fell completely asleep in the second quarter, woke up and it was over. I had to watch the replay this morning, and I've watched it a couple of times, so I'm well versed on ready to talk about it. But just last night in the moment, it was one of the just most boring games I can recall. We'll talk about it. The Florida job is now open after Dan Mullen and the Gators go in to Missouri yesterday and lose in overtime to Eli Drinkowitz and the Missouri Tigers, who look like a team that is getting it right. Their culture is starting to be really implemented in that locker room. You can tell it's a fun time to be a Missouri Tiger fan right now. Whether that means they're going to be competing for championships, I doubt it. I don't know. But it looks like Drinkowitz has at least got the interest, the belief, the locker room's in the right spot. The culture looks like it's taking shape. It really looks like it's a fun time.
Did you
to
see
be a Missouri fan?
His post-game presser?
I did.
When he walks out with the lightsaber?
Yeah, I did. I mean, he's kind of embraced all of this whole thing.
He has.
Drinkowitz is kind of tough not to like, really and truly, if you're just kind of being honest about where Missouri is after him taking over. And then, obviously, the Saints fall today. Pretty boring and devastating fashion there, too, as they're playing with just about everybody, man. I mean, you looked up on that offensive line. No Ramczyk, no Armstead, no Alvin Kamara today. I mean, it's tough. It's tough for the Saints to compete, even with a team like Philadelphia, who had been struggling coming into the game. But the Saints now 5-5 on the season. They'll host Buffalo with a quick turnaround here on Thanksgiving night. Buffalo, with probably the worst loss in the NFL today, is Jacksonville beats Buffalo, which just is...
Buffalo lost to... Or I think the Titans lost to...
Titans lost to Jacksonville.
To the Texans.
Yes, that's right. Titans lost to the Texans. But Buffalo had a pretty bad
Indianapolis.
loss. Indianapolis, that's right. I'm sorry.
Jonathan Taylor with five touchdowns.
Have you watched the new Hard Knocks?
Yeah, I watched the first episode.
Jonathan Taylor, that's where I learned how good he was.
He's a guy.
And for him to look in,
he might be the best back in the league right now.
That's what at least Indianapolis thinks. Yeah. If you're watching that show, I mean, they really are on high on him. So yeah, Buffalo coming off of a pretty bad loss today, as well as they fall to the Colts 41-15. Texans beat the Titans, as Noah said, 22-13. We're letting a couple of people get in here. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Appreciate everybody be here. We're going to talk to BJ Ojulari in a couple of minutes. We'll talk to Ojulari about obviously about going in to the final week. Simplified wants to know how long we'll be here. We'll be here for about an hour tonight, as we will preview and review a little bit about what we saw yesterday with LSU, ULM. Talk about this Florida job with Dan Mullen now opened up, which we had anticipated over the last couple of weeks. And the first thing I thought, my initial instinct when I saw today that Dan Mullen had been let go by Scott Strickland and the Florida Athletics Committee, was that if you don't hire Billy Napier you're going to be coaching against Billy Napier. Because I feel like Florida is going to hire Napier. If you were watching Late Kick with Josh Pate, who we trust, who's got really good relationships along the SEC, Napier's name seems to be the most popular among the Gainesville boosters and Scott Strickland. Strickland comes from Mississippi State, and from Napier's standpoint, and we've talked a ton about Napier, we've talked to Napier. We were scheduled to have him on last week, obviously, and we talked about some of the things that went down there. But this is exactly the offseason that Napier has been waiting on. This is why he has turned down jobs like South Carolina, Mississippi State, had Auburn on the table, but Auburn's brass told him who he had to hire, so he walked away from the contract at Auburn last season. He has been waiting on an offseason where jobs like LSU, Florida, Virginia Tech are now all on the table. USC are now all open, where Napier, TCU, is going to be a candidate in just about every single one of these, where it's pretty much understood he's going to end up at a big job. This is exactly what he's been waiting on. And as we've said about LSU, LSU has had a chance to look at Napier up close for the last 5 seasons as he's just been down the road in Lafayette, garnering all the success and building the stability within that Cajun program, and now have set themselves up to be first in line to evaluate who's going to be next. We've heard all types of names, right? Lincoln Riley, Lane Kiffin, Mel Tucker, Jimbo Fisher. Billy Napier's name seems to have been there the entire time. If LSU is going to move on Napier, you would imagine that it would have to be over the next 72 hours at least. No, kill your microphone, please. You would imagine that LSU would have to move on Napier pretty quickly, or at least quicker now that Florida's in the mix. I'd imagine that everybody out there is somebody that Napier was going to wait to see what LSU was going to do until he made his next move. If Florida pitches at him and offers the job, I think he jumps. I think he looks at a couple of programs in college football and says that they can be consistent winners. LSU is one of them, and Florida's another one. And Napier has been waiting on this opportunity now for at least 3 seasons. At least 3 seasons. An opportunity to get into a big Power 5 Southeastern Conference job where you can win SEC and national titles. And now there's 2 of those on the board. LSU consistently, from coast to coast, when you talk to people, listen to people, read people's work, is the most attractive job on the market right now. Even with USC open, but now that Florida's open, people will look at that job as attractive as LSU and look at the opportunity that a coach has coming in there to have as much success as expected to have in Baton Rouge. And Napier looks at that job as just about equal to the LSU job. Recruiting grounds, the facilities are getting better, you have the support in place, the state is a giant when it comes to producing players. The alumni is there, the support is there. He looks at Florida as a job that he would take. And I have that on good information. So does the LSU job for him. But the first thing that I thought today when I saw the Florida job open up mid-morning here on this Sunday was that if you do not hire Billy Napier, you are going to play against Billy Napier over the next decade. Because my gut tells me if LSU doesn't hire him, Florida's going to get him. And LSU might have their guy. And they may already be secure with who they have. But if it's not Billy Napier, they're going to be playing against Napier. Because with this job opening up in Florida, it feels like he's going to be the one that comes out of it. His familiar relationship with Scott Strickland. Strickland was at Mississippi State before he took the job at Florida. They were very much evaluating on who was going to be next from Dan Mullen year in, year out, because Mullen's name was always kicked up to openings. Always. Mullen's name was talked about just about every year from his third season on in Starkville. So they were constantly evaluating on who they were going to bring in next, and Napier's name kept popping up to so much that they brought him in and interviewed him, liked him, and offered him the job. Strickland knows Napier. He's been impressed by Napier. He's got a relationship with Napier. They've probably already been in contact today. So I don't know where you land on Billy Napier. And we've talked about Napier a lot here, and we've talked to him a couple of times here and gotten firsthand on who he is, how he evaluates players, how he runs his program, how he looks at it as a 365-day-a-year gig, the 6 phases of recruiting, what goes into just the everyday functionality of a college football program. You could, if you missed it, you can go back and check it out. It's very in-depth. It's very informative. It's very interesting. So I don't know what side of the line you fall on Napier, whether you want him to be in Baton Rouge next or not. But I get the feeling if he's not here, you're going to be fighting against him for a while. And maybe Dave Aranda is the guy to do that. We've talked a little bit about the offense-defensive mindset of each guy. And, you know, people are particular about it, some in particular about it. We talked to somebody last week, too. I think it was Josh Payne on Thursday morning. Came by and I asked him directly, if you were making this hire, would you put more emphasis on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball? And I believe he said, you know, there's, at this point, these guys are all experts on football. And they've got to be able to manage the program first, whether, you know, that's an expert on offense or defense. They do need a specialty, but there's no preference, at least according to Pate. To me, I think you can buy offense. I think if it came down to it, I'm not saying that I'm casting my vote for the defensive-minded guy. I'm just saying if I'm sitting in that room and the decision is up to me, and I'm saying, what do we want to do here? Look around. They're scoring a ton of points in Oxford. They're scoring a ton of points in Tuscaloosa. They're scoring a ton of points in College Station, where the emphasis is on offense. But the best team in the country right now has a defensive-minded coach. The most well-respected program in the country has a defensive-minded coach. I'm speaking of Georgia being the number 1 team in the country and Alabama being the most well-respected team year in, year out, is run by a defensive-minded guy. They pay for offense there. What's your preference? Both are on the table right now. Both may not be on the table in 48 hours. Because here's the deal. The time is crunching. I mean, the window is closing, right? I mean, for as much as everybody wants to play coy and be quiet and not give you any information, at some point you're going to have to show your hand here, and it's got to be probably over the next 7 days. I can't imagine that this LSU search goes past next Sunday. I expect us to be talking and evaluating and breaking down the LSU head football coach at a maximum of a week from today. Or there at least should be some type of tweet coming out about a press conference next Monday morning for the announcement. Right? I mean, you've got to start spreading messages and getting the messages to the recruits. And one thing that I can tell you that I've got on pretty rock-solid information is that there is no chance that Orgeron coaches past next Saturday night for LSU. whether they win or not and make it to a bowl, Orgeron, Panamsky crew are done. So whether you bring the new guy in and allow some type of his presence in a bowl game, which I don't know how that works. I don't know. I mean, this whole thing has been clunky, right? I mean, you've been dealing 7 weeks with a terminated guy. So how they handle the bowl prep, I don't think it's out of the question that they self-sacrifice the bowl again with what they have going on from an investigative standpoint. And, just to get out from under from Orgeron. You do sacrifices the extra practices that you got really young guys that you're counting on. How about Malik Neighbors, man? I mean, that Brian Thomas, too. I mean, both of those guys alongside Jack Besh. I mean, hopefully nothing goes wrong or goes on with transfers or anything like that, because, I mean, this freshman class of wide receivers at LSU, even Chris Hilton made a really good play on the onside kick last night.
And we really haven't even got to see him at all.
No. But, I mean, this freshman wide receiver group is just really special. Really, really, Malik Neighbors. I know it's Monroe, but, I mean.
That breakaway speed, doesn't matter who you're playing against.
I mean, it was almost like he learned on the first one where he stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, if he would have kept going right there, he'd probably hit the pylon. But, I mean, they're special, man. I mean, they got a really good group. And, I mean, there's a lot to sell on the LSU job, and there's a lot to worry about for the next guy coming in here. I mean, you look at that offensive line, and you look at the struggles of just, the personnel that they have in that unit. Next year is going to be anxious. There's going to be a lot of anxiety for an offensive coordinator, an offensive line coach, a head coach. I mean, the roster. I mean, they have left that roster in certain position groups in just shambles, and the offensive line being the most notable one. But I mean, you look at these freshman wide receivers. You look at some of the guys in the defensive backfield making plays. Jay Ward with another really solid game for him. It was one of the most boring football games at LSU over the last 20 years, counting every single one of Les Miles' Saturdays. That was one of the most boring games I have ever witnessed LSU play in. I mean, it was just it was almost like a form of torture to watch that thing.
I mean, offensively they got outcoached.
Circles ran around them. Rich Rodriguez.
Yeah.
You forget that guy's even on the board.
Yeah.
Great 2 4th down calls. I mean, that they just, his son he didn't step into it. And I mean, we can argue whether or not he should have made the catch. It was a tough catch. Ball hit him in the hands on that second 4th down. But it was a tough pass to bring in. But, LSU offensively is atrocious.
It's bad.
They are atrocious how bad they are. I mean, it makes you almost miss the days of Miles.
Yeah,
where
I mean,
at least you were picking up positive
Yeah.
yardage. You know what I mean? Or you had some sense of an idea of you knew what they were going to do. I mean, they are just abysmal on offense. It's tough to really be as bad as they are with the talent that they have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For as good as their personnel can be in certain spots. And I know you can't hide an offensive line in college football. But it is fascinating to see how bad they are.
27 points against ULM.
And just sludging through mud to get those 27. Yeah.
Miss field. Is Cade York okay?
Well, I mean,
it looks like he's got
you got to miss one.
Yeah, I guess.
York was 2 of 3 last night on field goal attempts. He did hit a 50-yarder. But he did miss from 44 in the first quarter, which I think was the most shocking part of the night.
The whole game.
I mean, it was just.
Well, even the extra point before that one was kind of
it was a little wobbly. It was kind of knuckleballish. LSU attempted a fake punt in the second quarter, which maybe just I could not get over the fact that they were fake punting against University of Louisiana Monroe, and then Jontre Kirkland slips in the open field. Avery Atkins is picked off, and then. One of the great names in college football, Boogie Knight, with a catch, a shakes Todd Harris up, gets into the end zone and really kind of starts the momentum in the direction of Monroe, all kind of on the coaching shoulders. I mean, it was the fourth down calls, the fake punts, the boring style of play. I mean, it's amazing. Chuck Gerard says, Jordy, answer some of the damn chats. All right, my bad.
Lance Beal has a good question.
What is it? Hit me.
Stoops or O'Brien, if it comes down to it.
Goodness gracious. I mean, if it comes, I can't imagine that the LSU job is going to come down to Bill O'Brien and Mark Stoops. There's not a day that I can see where those two guys are the true candidates here. I mean, Lane Kiffin would walk to Baton Rouge from Oxford.
Yeah.
He would walk on glass to get here. I mean, like, do you have to go that far down the list of Bill O'Brien or Mark Stoops? I hope it's not either one of those. But if it is one of the, I think that Scott Woodward will lose a ton of credibility from the fan base. He just, and he'll have a chance to regain it back if these two guys can turn into a winner, but it will be a dud of a hire if one of those two guys are announced.
I guess, in my opinion, if it came down to those two, you'd have to go Stoops is the only way you can go. Just because, I mean, he's having success as a head coach. I mean, if you go get Bill O'Brien, I mean, there's not going to be a single soul that supports that.
I just don't see how you could sell that to the fan base in the direction. Bayou Bingle says, Jordy, do you think Riley will accept the offer? Well, first off, I don't know if there's an offer on the table to accept. There's been wide speculation that there is an offer out there. I think that Lincoln Riley is thought about it. I've always thought that Lincoln Riley was using LSU for more leverage and more years and more money in Oklahoma. I don't know if Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley would be a great hire. He would be a phenomenal hire if they could pull him in. I mean, his success rating with offense over the last 12 years being, top 20 in the country, whether he was at East Carolina or Oklahoma, kind of speaks for itself, and it's scary to think about what he could do with LSU's talent and ability to recruit LSU's brand. I don't know. I've never felt like Lincoln Riley was going to take the job. I just never have. I've always kind of thought that Riley has looked at this as a leverage play for him at Oklahoma. It would surprise me if he accepted the offer, to answer your question. Bayou Bengal. I think that Riley would accept if he was offered? If he has been offered, I think it's probably already happened. And if he's accepted the job, that's probably already happened too. And if I was betting on it tonight, I would say that he is going to stay at Oklahoma. That would be my guess. I said middle of last week, when a lot of the smoke was coming out around all this speculation. First off, there was too much information on the Lincoln Riley stuff, in my opinion. I think when you start talking about how Scott Woodward has played this for the last month, to think that an 8-year, $96 million contract offer would start to come out in the last 11th hour of this negotiating and throughout this process, it just kind of doesn't make sense to me. It kind of outlying information. I mean, after everything that we've learned and been through and kind of gathered through this process, that doesn't make a lot of sense for that to come out. That terms, numbers, years, color of SUVs on the tarmac, that's just too much information. It's just too much information, in my opinion, around Lincoln Riley. And I think it came down to a two-horse race at that point between Billy Napier and Dave Aranda. I really do. And I've spoke to some people on the Aranda side that says he hasn't been contacted. So I don't know what to believe. I really don't. I've said the whole time, anybody that tells you that they know doesn't know. They're lying to you. But I do believe that, the source that I ran into at the basketball game on Thursday night, whether he was been given information to talk to people like me and tell me stuff like that and have me put it in the public, or not me, just people that talk into the to the public for a living and spread the message that there is real conversations with Bill O'Brien and LSU. Maybe that's how this stuff works. When you step back and you look at it, where names are just kind of floated through those types of people that are, considered insiders at LSU. Not that cover it. I'm talking about that like are on the board. So, I mean, I don't believe that Bill O'Brien is a true candidate. And deep down in my gut, personally, I don't believe that Lincoln Riley would take the job. It's crazy to think that. I mean, people would probably kick and scream and say, how could you turn the LSU job down? Some people just don't want that smoke, man.
Especially when you're already at a top job. In most people's opinions, Oklahoma is, I think LSU's job is obviously better, but Oklahoma's already a top job. And if he wants to go to the NFL, he's already got attention, from NFL teams while he's at Oklahoma, so there's no reason to use LSU as a stepping stone.
And people asking about Bob Stoops, I think that is out of control. I think that's that's wacky. Nobody's being the LSU job's not going to anybody who's been sitting out of football.
He's making commercials.
I mean, he doesn't want the LSU job. I mean, once you live that life away from it for a minute, I mean, to think about getting back into the just the hell, the fire cooker that is an SEC job, I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, I mean, all of this stuff is very uninformed. I mean, all of this stuff is just kind of following the tea leaves just like you do. Trying to talk, trying to ask people around it, trying to get information from people who would be considered, connected. And that's some of the, what I hear is what I'm telling you, and I'm putting my own personal opinion on it. I believe that this is a 2-horse race. It's down to Billy Napier and Dave Aranda. And like I said, what do you want it to be? You want offense? You want defense? Because I think when you kind of put them side by side, they're almost the same people. They really are. I mean, they have different methods, and some of the things on the resume are a little different, but when it comes down to it, the day-to-day operations of the program and the success that they have had in a short time in running their own kind of speaks for itself. And when you sit down and have an opportunity to talk to them one-on-one, talk to the people around them, see their plan, get their vision, it's kind of tomato, even though nobody really says tomato. But, I mean, it's very much apples to apples, in my opinion. When you talk about just those two individuals and the organization that you're going to get, none of the distractions that you've seen distract the last 2 head coaches at LSU are going to run across the desk with those 2 guys. It's going to be all about football with Dave Aranda and Billy Napier. They could care less about afternoon shirtless jogs. They could care less about who's on the recruiting staff as far as what they look like. They could care less about, all of the things that distracted the past 2 head coaches in this position. So that's what I feel it is. That's why I don't believe that Bill O'Brien and Mark Stoops and even Matt Campbell at Iowa State, who was a tremendous football coach, big win for Iowa State over the weekend. But I don't know. It just doesn't hit me the way that Jimbo Fisher kind of hit me early on and kind of thought he was going to be it. And then his press conference last Monday really kind of killed that. To Billy Napier the entire time being somebody that's kind of always been out there. Dave Aranda, who's picked up a lot of steam. Lane Kiffin, the thing in Knoxville a couple of weeks back, to me, I kind of thought to myself in that moment, Woodward's probably watching that thinking, I don't want that. He's a great offensive mind. He brings a lot of cachet. He's got a cool vibe to him, but I can't have my coach catching water bottles and throwing them back into the crowd on the road. I just can't have it. Not coming off the last 2 experiences that LSU have had at head coach where, they've become characters, memes, jokes. And not that Kiffin football-wise can turn into that, but you just never, it's a wild card. It's a wild card, and I think all the BS is behind him, but when you're making that hire and you're cutting that check and you're selling it to people that have a lot of, financial backing behind the choice, you got to make sure you got to be as much or as least risk to the reward as you can find. And to me, I thought Kiffin kind of showed a little bit much more of that. It kind of showed a little too much of risk on that, more than Woodward was I think there's all an inherent risk on this hire. On any way you go, Jimbo Fisher included, there's a risk. But you want to try and limit the risk to the reward as much as possible on this, and I don't know if you can do that with Lane Kiffin at LSU. I think you could do that with Lane Kiffin in Gainesville. I think Lane Kiffin makes a lot of sense at Florida, and I think that's another job that Kiffin would probably leave Oxford for, because he sees the opportunity to get out of the West first and foremost. I know Georgia's on the East, but if Georgia woke up tomorrow morning, or if Georgia learned over the next week that Lane Kiffin was going to be the head coach at Florida, that would probably rattle them more than anybody that Florida could bring in. Because that's kind of could be the oil to the water of Kirby Smart's personality at Athens, that Kiffin would just sit down there in Gainesville and poke and prod him all day, knowing that they're real tight. I mean, they've alluded that they're on text message chains together and that they've shared a lot of stories and times together on the recruiting trail and as assistant coaches. But if Georgia learned that Florida hired Lane Kiffin, they would probably be like, oh, shit. Bayou Bingle says Billy Napier has not proven anything at ULL. Ask the ULL fans what Billy Napier has proven. He's turned them into a consistent winner. Nobody ever thought that program would win on the consistent rate that they are doing and winning right now than they are in Lafayette. And it's all because of what Napier has going on. If it's not the level high enough for you, I can get that argument. But the fact that he's done it at a consistent rate at a place that has not seen consistency like that ever, is a very much a high accomplishment and deserves to be rewarded in college football coaching. That's what decision makers, that's what, visionaries like Scott Woodward are looking for. We'll get to BJ Ojulari here in a minute. Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by the law offices of Lance Beal. Lance Beal is online at lawofficeoflancebeal.com. You can also call him at 337 area code 991-6263. 991-6263 is the phone number with a 337 area code to get in touch with Lance Beal, and he can help you out, man, with just about anything. Whether you're going through divorce, personal injury, small business, construction law, family law, estate planning, your choice for reliable representation begins and ends with our friend Lance Beal. Online, lawofficeoflancebeal.com, and the phone number is simple. 337 is the area code, 991-6263. Appreciate everybody's interaction and spending Sunday night with us. Make sure and hit that like button, dislike button, share button, comment on the post. All of that interaction helps us out tremendously. We appreciate you being here on a Sunday night. Next, we will hear from BJ Ojulari, standout defensive end for the Tigers, going into a weekend which will see his head coach go through the last of preparation from a practice standpoint in a regular season. We'll ask him about the emotions this week that will be circulating around the LSU football program, the motivation to play Texas A&M, and bowl eligibility on the line for the Tigers. How much do they talk about it? How much do they know that? How much does that motivate them? BJ Ojulari, one of the leaders of LSU, coming up next here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Driven and powered by Go Chevrolet and brought to you every Sunday night by the law offices of Lance Beal down in Lafayette. Back here to a Sunday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet every day here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Make sure and tune in tomorrow morning. Jake Crane, J-Boy, will be here. We'll ask him what he's heard here now with the Florida job opening up. Crazy to think about. Florida, LSU, USC, Virginia Tech. Just some of the jobs that are open now after the news that hit the day that Dan Mullen had been ousted at the University of Florida. So we will talk to Jake Crane, J-Boy, tomorrow morning at 7:30 here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Every Sunday night we talk to B.J. Ojulari, who is one of the standout defensive ends in college football and one of the leaders for LSU football. Tigers get a win last night. Much needed win. It was good to get back in the win column for LSU football as they take care of business versus University of Louisiana Monroe. We welcome B.J. Ojulari back into the conversation here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Big fella, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing good, and you?
Absolutely, man. Doing good. What was last night like?
It was pretty fun to get out there. We got a W, not the way we wanted to win, but we still got the W, so that's all that matters.
Tough to get up for those games? Is that the deal?
Yeah, it is, but, we're all still very motivated to get that win, get back on the winning track, get that bad taste of losing out of our mouth.
27-14 last night. You get to win 5 and 6 now. You win this weekend, you're bowl eligible. Do you guys talk about that? Do you know that? Do you care about that?
Oh, most definitely. That's the goal. That's been the goal for a couple of weeks now. So this is almost like one of our biggest. This is the biggest game of our season. Trying to get to a bowl game. So we're going to go in, focus up, and go out and beat Texas A&M.
A&M seems to pull the best out of LSU. LSU seems to pull the best out of A&M. It kind of feels like a something that the league wants to be a rival. How do you guys feel about Texas A&M? And does this game get more focus from you guys? I mean, does this game mean more?
Oh yes, sir. Most definitely. It's like I said a couple weeks ago when we played Florida. It's just something about playing those guys that gets us riled up and gets us locked in. And some people play their best games.
This will also be your last week with your head coach in Ed Orgeron, at least for the regular season. And I know that is someone and a relationship that you value. Can you talk about kind of the emotions of that? Have you thought about that? Do you guys talk about that?
We haven't really talked about it much, but it's going to be something that we all got to face. Coach O is very inspirational to me in my recruitment of getting me out of Georgia. So I have a lot of appreciation for him and everything he's done for me.
BJ, I know that you're a defensive standout. You're constantly on the defensive side of the ball and paying attention to what's going on there. But the offense and this young wide receiver group seems to be pretty stout, bro. I mean, every time you look up, if it's not Besh, it's Neighbors. If it's not Neighbors, it's Thomas. Even last night, you got a little bit of a glance at Chris Hilton, who's a playmaker. You see these guys every day at practice. How good are these freshman wide receivers? How good can they be?
Oh, they're going to be amazing. They're a good group of freshmen. I love the way Besh play. I love the way Neighbors and Thomas play. They all play together. They all play well. But yeah, they're showing great flashes of greatness here and there. When you need a big play, Besh, he's always there for the first down. Malik, deep threat, and to get a touchdown also with Brian. So it's going to be exciting to watch them grow and play.
Have you watched any film on A&M?
Not yet.
What are the challenges? I know you hadn't watched film, but like last year you were preparing for Jimbo Fisher's offense. What's some of the challenges that an A&M offense give to you guys?
Every week in the SEC you got to stop the run. They got a good running back, Isaiah Spiller. So yeah. I'm sure that's going to be one of our big focuses going into this week. They got a very, very solid O-line, and we just have to come out and change the line of scrimmage, and we'll be all right.
Neil Farrell, another good week for him last night. Tell me about kind of how he's grown here over the last couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, Neil, he's grown so much, especially with the help of Coach Carter, Coach Gerald Chapman. They all improved our game. But Neil, he's just been playing at another level, like a first round level in my opinion. So he's doing a great job. He's one of the leaders of the defensive line, one of the older guys with a lot of experience. So it's good to just sometimes lean on him.
BJ, did Dave Aranda recruit you? I know he didn't coach you. Did he recruit you?
Yes, sir. He recruited me a little bit, but my main recruiters were Coach Orgeron and Coach Johnson, the former Coach Johnson.
Yeah, Meatball.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, who's actually with Aranda now.
Yes, sir.
All right, bro. Do y'all are y'all curious about what's going to be next? Do y'all? I mean, are you kind of curious like the fan base is and kind of like who we and like kind of how we are talking about who's going to be next?
Yeah, I think the whole team is everybody is because for a long time it's just been Coach O, and that's all we know. That's all we've been taught to know. So it's going to be new for somebody else to come in and take over. So we just got to wait and see. I know Mr. Scott Wood is going to make the best decision for everybody. So
does he talk to you guys? Does the AD talk to you guys?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he talks to us. You know, he gives us word of encouragement and stuff. He's always around the football program. So, yeah, he's always around and talking to
us. Keep balling, bro. Get out there and get bowl eligible. We'll see you on Saturday night in Tiger Stadium.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You got it, man. There is BJ Ojulari checking in just like he does weekly here on the Jordy Culotta Show. We appreciate BJ for stopping by every Sunday. Our show is brought to you each Sunday night by the law offices of Lance Beal. As you can find Beal online at lawofficeoflancebeal.com, lawofficeoflancebeal.com. So there you have it. We appreciate BJ for stopping in every week. I know some of those questions probably suck to answer as a student athlete. He's very elegant or eloquent in the way that he kind of manages that. And for being as young as he is and being as, just kind of, that's not something that you really want to do as a 21-year-old. It's been pretty impressive to have him on every week and listen to the way that he talks about, kind of his experience. And it's just, we're very grateful here on the Jordy Culotta Show for him being out there. Let's see who we got some questions here coming in. If Woodward passes on a guy like Napier because he's obsessed with a big name hire, then I'm going to be PO'd, says Michael Porter. Noah and I were kind of talking about that in the break while we were getting in touch with BJ. Was that I hope LSU kind of sees that the openings are around, and you want to go with. You want to go with the solid choice. I don't know if you want to try to overplay this thing. I don't know if you want to kind of overthink this thing. I don't know if you want to kind of put yourself out there from a financial standpoint and kind of open yourself to some vulnerability here and just go with the solid choice, which I think, when we said last week when it came down to Dave Aranda and Billy Napier, the entire time, I think those have been the most solid choices. There have been big names out there like Jimbo Fisher, Lane Kiffin, Mel Tucker, that if you swing, you strike on, wow, that's a hell of a get. And Kiffin might still be in play. But it seems like Fisher's off the board. Mel Tucker gets, the terms extended to him last week, which, by the way, I mean, the timing on that, good God.
I flipped the score, and I was like,
jeez, bro.
$95 million?
I thought they were going to put 96 on him in the first half. But, yes, is that what $96 million gets you, Michigan State? Just the two most solid choices throughout this entire process, or not the entire process. Aranda probably came on a little later in the process than Napier did. Napier's always kind of been there. In my opinion, has been Napier and Aranda, and I think that's, kind of the names on the board. And like I said, I cannot see an instance. I cannot see a scenario where this thing goes past a week from today, especially a week from tomorrow. I mean, at some point, you got to start recruiting these guys. And I'm not even talking about Shaz Preston and Walker Howard. I'm talking about B.J. Ojulari and Mason Smith.
And all these freshmen, like it's
Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, seeing them perform, and you're like, well, even the announcers last night, they were talking about Max Johnson, and then they were like, and we don't even know where he's gonna be playing next year, like something like that, and it's just like, everybody knows.
Yeah, you're wide open.
Yeah,
man. You're so exposed. So it's a crazy time, man. And I think when you go back and you read the book of this part of LSU football's history, this week coming up is probably going to be the wildest. It's probably going to be the craziest. This week, starting tomorrow with Orgeron's press conference, where he's inevitably going to say something, that you're just like, what in the hell is he even talking about, bro? Or, who he's just going to roll over tomorrow, whether it's a player, whether it's a coach, or whether he's just going to talk about it. I mean, he was kind of alluding to it in his post-game press conference last night. This weekend's going to be fun. It's going to be emotional. Be having some fun this week. I mean, it seems like he's kind of been in that character the last couple of weeks. So, I mean, if he's highlighting what this week is going to look like, I mean, it's going to be must-watch television. I wonder if Orgeron thinks this is kind of like a one-on-one between him and Jimbo.
And he might think of it that kind of like him and Lane last year in that Ole Miss game. Like, I feel like that's kind of what he went in idea-wise. Like, this is kind of a boxing match.
Yeah.
And they were interviewing Cody Orgeron last night at the game, and he commented and said they're a beach family, and it just made me laugh. The white sand.
So we appreciate you being here on this Sunday night. Law office of Lance Beal, lancebeal.com. Make sure you like, share. Obviously, LSU basketball game with a big one tomorrow, as they will have Belmont in town for a 7:00 tip-off. Looking forward to catching that one tomorrow night. Jeb Whitley says, Jordy says Aranda and Napier most likely, which is exciting. And if it's Riley, I would like that too. I know people give him crap for his defense, but damn, the man can get our offense fixed pretty quickly. He can. He absolutely can. Donnie T says program builder and a player developer. He is screaming Napier at the mountaintops. I'm kind of with you. Von Bluesman says coaches poll just released. Baylor number 10, Lafayette number 23. This is 2 years in a row. Lafayette has been ranked higher than LSU. Jimmy Magoo says greetings from Bay St. Louis. Greetings, Jimmy. Chewy, I'm very curious to see what O is going to do with his money. Says he's going to Hawaii. I think there's some people out there that says that he's kind of going to be he's going to go live on the island for a while, which I can't blame him. I can't blame him. It's a lot of money, man. I saw the buyout terms for Orgeron, and if you look at the way that Orgeron's buyout is being paid, where he's an employee at LSU for the next couple of years, it's really kind of smart when you think it out loud. I mean, he's tied to the money. He's tied to LSU. It also keeps his mouth shut for the extended future, which some of the people I talked to up at LSU were pretty boisterous about, saying that was one of the things that really burned them about Orgeron. Got a story, and I'll leave you with this one before we get out of here. Some of the details are starting to kind of come out on how it really kind of went down with O, and got on pretty good word that Orgeron, after the phone call the week of the Florida game on the radio show, where he threatens the fishing hole, supposedly the executives from LSU just were livid, like just irate in the moment, right? And this is like Stephanie Remph, Scott Woodward, Verge Alsbury, like the executive members of the athletic department of the LSU athletic program. And then Tate heard the soundbite, which William Tate, the president of the university, by all accounts, I know we like went into this thing not wanting to like Tate and think that he was going to be like this guy that was going to be anti-LSU and anti-everything tradition and anti-everything fun. And by all accounts, the people that I have talked to, and I have not had any direct lines with him, I met him one time at a football game where that was just shaking his hand and passing. Everybody that I have spoke to up there, and I'm talking about like on the record and off the record, everybody has like consistently said the guy's great. Like, he's easy to work for. He loves LSU. He's made it easy. The processes are easy. He is fun to work for. But back to the story. So he gets word of the calls up to the to LSU Sports, says give me the sound. Let me hear it. Let me hear what happened. So they play it back, and hey, I got a fishing hole down, and Tate is like, bro, that's it. I can't. I'm not. That's it. Cut this guy. I'm done. Get him out of here. So they get in touch with the representatives that night and supposedly say like they're ready to make the move. Like, you know, I think the rub was that LSU was still trying to kind of find a loophole in the buyout, right? Like, or even like let the season play out and just kind of let him burn his own bridge, right? Like let him. Here's the rope. Hang yourself. But it got to a point where everybody was just so fed up and just, you know, that was the latest thing. Cut him. And supposedly that night, Orgeron like made some comments of, I'll burn this MFer down with me. If I'm going down, I'm taking down everybody. And that was like the last straw that said, you know what? Psh, here's the terms of the buyout. You're fired tonight. You're getting every dime that you're owed from this buyout. You're getting $16.9, nearly $17 million. But you're going to be on the hook for the next 5 years. And if you so much mention a word, you step out of bounds, you do something. If you just look at the terms of the buyout, I mean, they've got him tied up for the next 4 or 5 years where, you know, I mean, he's an employee of the university. So if he says anything despite the university, he's going to break the contract and they'll get their money back. I mean, for what the threat and the concern is around Orgeron and life after O for LSU football, the buyout is really kind of written up for pretty ingenious. I mean, just to kind of keep everybody safe. Maybe not us at the Jordy Culotta show, but at least everybody at LSU. So,
would you have expected a different reaction, like out of O, when he finds out that news?
What's that?
Would you have expected like a different reaction out of him?
No.
Like that should be what you think's coming.
Yeah. I just got a text message from somebody well in the know that says, if LSU is getting in the race for Billy Napier, they're way too late to the party. Florida's been in the run for a while. I'm telling you. If LSU does not hire Billy Napier, they will be coaching against Napier for the next decade. They have had a front row seat of breaking down and evaluating Billy Napier over the last 5 years. They know exactly who he is. He has told you exactly who he was over the last 3 weeks on this show. You can go back to the podcasted material here and find the last 2 interviews for Billy Napier where we ran it almost like he was trying out for the football coaching job for the Jordy Culotta show.
It was an interview.
I mean, we asked him everything, how he recruits his evaluating of players to how he runs his program.
And he passed it with flying colors.
Florida might have him hired by Tuesday.
Oh, that's scary. That's scary.
Man, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. All right, we'll see what we can dig up tonight. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning as the Jordy Culotta show rolls on here on this Sunday night, brought to you by the law offices of Lance Beal. Tomorrow we will talk to Jake Crane. Tomorrow we will talk to more college football insiders. We will get more information for you here on this topic as we'll have the latest for what's going on as LSU. Florida now open. The Florida job is now open. What's that do to LSU's negotiating? We'll see. Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Ghost Chevrolet. Make sure and check out the law office of LanceBeal.com online. Great website. Need any legal advice, consultation, any representation, start there with Beal. Let him help you out. Official Sunday night show sponsor here of the Jordy Culotta Show. Make sure and like and share for us very much. We appreciate that very much. Comment, like, share, dislike if you want. Just interact with us.
Oh, I got a shout out. There was a guy on social media last night who was a fan from Malaysia. So
wow. We love that, bro. We love that.
Global.
Yes. Let us know where you're listening from. We appreciate you being there. We're back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.